all of me. There are moments when everything that makes up a life seems to arrive at once, not loudly, not as a demand, simply present. The part that steps forward easily, the part that hesitates, the part that watches the room before speaking, the part that fills space without effort, the part that tightens when something familiar returns, the part that softens at the sound of a known voice. None of these parts announce themselves as separate. None ask to be chosen. They appear because this is how a life moves. For a long time, it is easy to believe that wholeness means narrowing, becoming one version, holding a single posture that can be carried unchanged through every room and relationship. There is a quiet pressure to be consistent in this way, to reduce variation, to arrive at something stable enough to be named. When different ways of being appear in different contexts, they can feel like evidence of something unfinished, something unresolved. But this idea of a single, fixed self is rarely lived. What is lived is movement. What is lived is response. What is lived is adjustment, often subtle, sometimes immediate, shaped by memory, environment, and contact. The body does not move through the world as a single tone. It listens, reacts, adapts. It remembers what has helped before. It carries forward what has kept things intact. Multiplicity is not an interruption to life. It is one of its basic conditions. In one space, speech comes easily. Energy rises to meet what is required. Silence would feel like absence there, so sound fills the gap. In another space, words feel heavy, unnecessary, even intrusive. Attention shifts instead to listening, to watching, to staying still enough to sense what is not being said. Neither response is false, neither is a mask. Each is a way the body knows how to remain in contact. These ways of being are often judged against each other. One is called confidence, the other withdrawal. One is praised, the other quietly questioned. Over time, this creates an internal sorting, a constant monitoring of which parts are acceptable and which need to be managed. Some ways of being are invited forward. Others are held back, softened, explained away. The body does not experience this sorting as helpful. It experiences it as tension, because the body does not move by hierarchy. It moves by necessity. It responds to what is present. It tightens when there is threat. It opens when there is safety. It leans in when there is warmth. It pulls back when there is too much. These movements are not opinions. They are not strategies. They are responses shaped by memory and circumstance. Much of the inner strain carried by people comes from treating these responses as problems rather than signals, from assuming that variation means inconsistency rather than responsiveness, from believing that one way of being must be the real one and the rest temporary or mistaken. This belief creates an internal argument that never quite resolves. Which part should stay? Which part should be outgrown? Which reactions are understandable and which should have ended by now? Even gentler language does not always loosen this grip. Acceptance can become another task, integration another demand. And yet, beneath this argument, something else is always present. It is felt in the moment before adjustment happens, a brief pause where nothing has been decided yet. It is felt in the body as a subtle steadiness, even when everything else is shifting. It does not speak, it does not intervene, it simply remains. This steadiness is easy to miss because it does not compete for attention. It does not produce insight. It does not promise clarity. It is not impressed by effort, and it is not disappointed by struggle. It is there when the voice rises, and it is there when the voice falls away. It is there when confidence arrives, and it is there when uncertainty takes its place. All of the different ways of being are held by this. When this is noticed, even briefly, the internal argument softens. The need to resolve multiplicity into something singular loosens its hold. There is space for more than one response to exist without explanation. The body is allowed to move as it needs to, without being immediately questioned. This does not make life quieter, It makes it more honest, because life does not arrive in clean, consistent conditions. It arrives in fragments, in interruptions, in overlapping demands. A life lived in contact will show variation. It will speak differently to different people. It will stand differently in different rooms. These shifts are not evidence of fracture. They are evidence of relationship. The idea that there is one correct way to be often comes from a distance from lived experience, from watching life rather than inhabiting it. In actual moments, the body does what it must. It responds before theories have time to form. It remembers what has worked, what has hurt, what has kept things together. There are times when this responsiveness becomes most visible: during death and the aftermath that follows, during long periods of holding things together, during moments when there is no room to fall apart and no language for what is being carried. In these times, different ways of being take on different roles. One part manages what needs to be done, another holds what cannot be expressed, another keeps moving when stopping would mean collapse. None of these parts are excessive. None are wrong. Together, they allow continuity. Seen this way, the question changes. It is no longer which part is the real one. It is whether all of them are allowed to belong. Belonging is not created by permission. It is revealed when exclusion ends. When exclusion ends, something settles in the body. The constant monitoring eases. The effort to appear coherent relaxes. Attention shifts from managing the self to inhabiting it. There is more room to breathe. This room is not conceptual, it is felt, often in ordinary moments that do not seem important enough to name. Hands in warm water at a sink, sitting in a parked car before the engine is turned off, standing in a doorway without yet stepping through, lying awake at night, aware of breath and weight, and the quiet fact of being here. In these moments, there is no need to decide who is being presented. There is no performance to maintain. There is simply presence, unclaimed and steady. This presence does not replace the many ways of being. It holds them. It does not simplify life. It steadies it. Because when this steadiness is felt, contradiction does not threaten collapse. Strength and weariness can exist side by side. Warmth and distance can take turns without becoming a verdict. Anger can pass through without becoming identity. Silence can exist without being mistaken for absence. This does not require belief. It does not require effort. It is noticed rather than achieved. Often, it is recognized most clearly in the presence of others who allow it, in spaces where there is no need to choose which part to bring, where nothing is being evaluated, where time is not being measured. In those conditions, the body settles without instruction. The many ways of being arrange themselves naturally. The steadiness beneath them becomes more apparent, not because it has appeared, but because attention has stopped pulling away from it. These conditions cannot always be created. Life is not arranged for this kind of ease. But the steadiness itself does not depend on conditions. It is not produced by safety, though safety makes it easier to feel. It remains present even in noise, even in pressure, even in moments of disorientation. It can be felt as a center, though it has no edges. It can be felt as weight, though it does not press. It can be felt as stillness, though nothing else needs to stop. Later, sometimes much later, language reaches for a name. The dot, not as a system, not as a concept to be learned, simply as a way of pointing to what has been felt all along. The quiet origin beneath movement, the place where all of these ways of being are held without preference. But even without a name, it is already known in the pause before speech, known in the breath that returns after being held, known in the sense of being here without needing to explain why. From this recognition, something subtle but significant shifts. There is less urgency to arrive at a finished version of the self, less pressure to justify inconsistency, more tolerance for change without collapse, more trust that what appears belongs to the same life, the same body, the same, ongoing presence. All of this is included. The part that learned to protect, the part that learned to endure, the part that loves without reserve, the part that withdraws when things feel too much, the part that is capable, the part that is unsure, the part that speaks easily, the part that waits. Nothing needs to be removed for wholeness to be true. Wholeness is not a destination. It is the condition that has been present all along, obscured only by the effort to reduce it. All of me is already here, held, unfinished, intact.